Come on. Yeah. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, so always looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you conscientiously tuned into Marriage with Joy. Notice I didn't say marriage with joy. Marriage with Joy. And here you have your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. I didn't say the ambassador of joy. And we have, of course, our amazing, wonderful Dr. Diane Medved. We have fabulous Maura Sweeney. And we are absent, wonderful Lori. So I'm going to do something different for the beginning of the show today that was unplanned until about 10 minutes ago. And it was the advice of my wonderful wife. So I'm heeding it. And I'm going to speak about, are you ready? Death. But not death in the way of death, death in the way of life. Why? Because we're going to speak about two interesting people, one short and one not short person, a little shorter and a little longer. The first one we're going to talk about has to do with Lori because she's not with us today. And the reason she's not with us because she texted us just a day or two ago and said, I can't join you. My mother just died. And the family's flying into Chicago, take care of her, et cetera, take care of the arrangements for the funeral and such like that. So I want to pay a tribute to Lori because we've been together, the four of us, for now a number of years, and it's an important voice. We have very different voices, uh, and it's fascinating. It's especially interesting because Lori has told us something about her family, which I don't have to go in the moment. However, the important thing is that her mother, who she loved and was devoted to, passed away, and that takes precedence, meaning now to give honor to the person who's departed. Because the greatest honor is obviously to be there at the graveside to make sure that the person who is departing is taken care of in the right way, and the people who are left otherwise healthy and hearty are carrying on the legacy. And that's really the key of living is a beautiful sentence that I am very fond of. It happens to be in a book called Ecclesiastes. Now, it's such a wonderful book. Most people can't even spell it, let alone pronounce it. In Hebrew, it's called Koheles because it was written by the King Solomon, and he put many things together to create this remarkable book of insight of wisdom. In the seventh chapter and the first sentence, it reads something like this. Now I'm going to say it in English. It reads, a good name is better than fine oil, and the day of death is greater than the day of birth. Now, on the surface, some people might scratch their heads and say, day of death is better than day of birth. Birth, we celebrate, everybody's happy and such like that. Yes, birth is a time of potential, new, something interesting. We have no idea. Passing or death, what did you accomplish? What name do you leave with? And that's why it says a good name is better than fine oil. Oil is a very important, necessary part of civilization to this very day. Whether we're talking about petroleum oil, olive oil, oil for making scent, oil is part of our life. You don't have an automobile, even electric automobile without oil. Gears don't work well when they're going one against the other. You need oil, the oil of life. So to build a good name is the work of a lifetime, especially when it's done with forethought. And we will hear from Lori in the next time she's with us about her mother. We'll ask her to say some stuff. And the beauty is that we know something about her mother because the way Lori lives. Lori would not be able to be that conduit of goodness and a channel of God and a dispenser of really beneficial wisdom and information to women who are suffering. And they're suffering because of men not doing the right thing, which we'll talk about in our show, Marriage with Joy, because marriage is the training ground for living well. It's a testing ground. There's no other place where you really put to the test of how you want to live your life. Do you want to live it with integrity, with responsibility, with respect? Or you want to live it fancy-free and footloose, and therefore not accumulating that which is most precious in the world, which is a good name. In other words, being of benefit. So we pay tribute to Lori, to her mother, because Lori is embodying that which her mother obviously was able to pass on to her in terms of what we call midos, good characteristics, and to fine-tune them to be able to be of service. The greatest benefit of any human being is to be of service, especially if you're in service to the most holy and most high. And another great name, well, I just want to do a little something. Since I have the sounds here, I'm loving this. We'll make a shift because one of the great Americans, I mean, truly, an embodiment of Americana, has just passed away. You don't even have to say her name because everybody knows now. Dolly Parton was truly America. Everything about her spoke America. Big, bold, out there, loving, great voice. What a figure, what a face, an amazing mind of giving and service and being and of benefit. And I mention it for three reasons. Number one, because, and I applaud President Trump for this, he is having the flags of the United States in the federal buildings flying at half staff. Because she deserves it. I mean, she's a great American. It's true Americana, not just a Grand Ole Opry and country music, which in and of itself is very nice. She was so down home. She was so real, came from a family of, I think, 11 or 12 or 13. Grew up what other people call dirt poor. Even she said it was dirt poor, because it was dirt floors. And achieved remarkable presence and renown in the world. As she said, I always wanted to be famous and rich. She said this to Julia Roberts, my wife just told me. They were doing a movie together in Tennessee a number of years back. My wife said Steel Magnolia was called. Apparently it was a good movie. And they were on the set in Tennessee in the summer, and it was hot and humid. And it was getting to one particular person, Julia Roberts, who was at that time famous and rich. And Dolly Parton said to Julia, this is down-home wisdom. He said, Julia, all my life, I wanted to be famous and rich. And I'm both. I don't complain. Because Julia was famous and rich. She's complaining about the heat. You know, hello. She was so real. And what I truly want to bring out is that in addition to all of that, and famous and rich, she and her husband were married for 48 or 49 years. Raised a great family. Everybody in her extended family was loving and kind and giving. And she built enormously successful businesses that employed thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, because she cared. She cared about making sure people had jobs, things to do. That's an American spirit that is rare and was rare then, becoming rarer today. God willing, we will begin to see other people rising to the occasion. So I wanted to make mention of the marriage, the longevity of the marriage, because it was rooted in principles. It was rooted in integrity for both she and her husband. And I think, not think, I know that that's what our podcast, our show, our meeting together once a month is really about. The ability to live with someone that you care about with integrity, responsibility, respect, caring. And as I said, I'm in some small way that we can pay tribute, especially with our show, because she embodied it. So thank you for indulging me. And I did ask Maura and Diane and myself to think about a definition for marriage. So I could go first, but that would be monopolizing. So I'm going to ask our wonderful Dr. Diane Medved, way up north in Seattle, the great Northwest, in the end of the summertime. And she's bemoaning the fact already that it's the ending of summertime. And yet she's so happy that she has summertime because there's only two seasons in the Northwest or in Seattle, as she told us many times. So Dr. Diane, with that infectious, beautiful, bountiful smile, please share with us your definition of marriage, and then we'll continue from there.
Well, actually, you capsulized a lot of it. But one thing I want to disagree with you on, which is that you said the greatest honor for Lori's mother is to have the people gathering there in her honor at her funeral and to have everyone, the family together to celebrate her when she dies. I would say the greatest honor for her were the people who took her to the doctor, were the people who kept her from being lonely, who were there at her side when she was dying, the people who came when they didn't think she needed it. It makes me cry. Why? Because that is really loving somebody. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I honor Lori because she was there and she cared. And that is what family is. And that is what love is all about. And when you ask the definition of marriage, that is central. Being there for the other person when they need you. It's commitment, yes. It's commitment you're not going to have sex with somebody else. It's commitment that you're going to raise a family together. And I was going to say the family project. You commit to the family project. You see a long-term future, not a short time together, but perpetuity, forever together. And that is the vow that people take in marriage, is that they will stick together and they will be a unit that is more than the combination of just one person and a different person. It's a separate entity that is special, that can only be made by the efforts of the two of you together and the commitment of the two of you together and the responsibility that you take for each other and for your children and for everyone around you, of course, because whatever you do reflects on the other person and vice versa. I remember when my husband was first falling in love with me, he said, "You are me." And I thought to myself, I am you? What do you mean I am you? But now I say it to him because we are so inseparable in terms of our psyches and our goals and what we have accomplished and how we support each other. He's watching right now, so thank you, honey. And that's the point. Marriage, when they say the marriage of oil and vinegar, what are they saying? Two separate things that wouldn't normally necessarily become one do that. The marriage of anything means coming together and forming something special. And I think that it boils down to that being there, that caring, that consistency, that giving, that putting the other person ahead of yourself when you're making decisions, and not negating yourself,
On the
but
contrary.
being willing to see that the other person's needs are in a way more important, and that allows both of you to compromise. If you don't become stubborn, the opposite of marriage is probably stubbornness, where you think that you're right. Marriage is where you know that each of you is right, at least to some degree, and you can see it and put that into action. So that's my sort of off the cuff definition of marriage, round here and there.
Okay, very good. I wanted it to be only 12 words, but that's fine. It's good.
You didn't ask for 12
I
words.
know. I'm just playing. Okay, very good. I can't say hello in 12 words. Okay, Maura, let's go to you, and then we'll come back. I'll give mine, then we'll come back and unpack a little bit more in each one of them. Maura, you have to unmute.
Good. I'm saying 12 words. I can't say anything in 12 words either. All right. So what did you do? You wrote us earlier today and said, get the definition that you think is good for marriage. And I'm like, okay. You know, I did two things. The first was I remembered that I think I mentioned I used to have a column on Huffington Post, which is now HuffPost. What happened? Neon lights.
It's okay.
All right, sorry. And this is my special formal light my daughter got me. Anyway, I used to have a column on Huffington Post. And as I was thinking about this today, I thought, wait a minute. I did a piece on marriage. And I called it, of all things, 33 years and counting on a happy marriage. That for us was 12 years ago. And I pulled it back up, and I'm going to first, if you don't mind, read the official, I would call it sanitized definition of marriage from Google AI. And this will tell you what I think marriage in many ways is not. You ready? Google AI, that could never really have a marriage, says marriage is defined as a legally, socially, and culturally recognized union between people that creates rights and obligations between them.
Ooh.
Right? Terrible.
Ooh.
Terrible.
That's sterile. That's not a marriage. That's sterile.
You're right. Okay. I am having technical problems. Okay. Let's a little better.
Oh, that's much better.
All right. Now, this is what I looked at. I said, Google AI, which is where society would love to take us, is totally devoid here of the other elements that really do make a marriage because it's between people. And it is physical, it's spiritual, it's relational, and it's a covenant between two committed individuals to each other, to their union, and to their growing and expanding future. Better than Google AI, right?
Absolutely. Claude would be proud of you.
Oh, all right. I could go on, but why don't you do, and then I could always add in.
Okay.
Still more than 12 words.
Actually, I'm even surprised that Huffington Post would have wanted you to write a column on marriage, but that's another story.
Back in the day, they loved it when it was Huffington, and then it just changed.
I think they shifted. Something shifted in the whole mentality. It was okay. So here's what I wrote for the moment. Marriage is, I'm going to use some keywords, partnership, preferably between a man and a woman, with allegiance to higher values that both agree to, so that there are three partners in the marriage: man, woman, I use God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm using as my definitional beginning for marriage. Partnership, two people, preferably man and woman, and the addition of higher values. Some people don't have to say God, but something beyond the two.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with Barry. The reason I mentioned specifically partnership, as opposed to relationship, by the way. It's really nice that two people in a marriage have a good relationship. That's wonderful. However, that is not how I'm going to try and find the correct terminology so people can understand what I'm about to say. It's not the reason to go into a marriage. You might have a great relationship with a man and a woman. However, unless and until they see each other as partners, I'll use the terms that Diane was talking about, in the sense that 1 + 1 = 216. In other words, far more than the two of you. The relationship can come and go, things can happen, you never know. However, if you're committed to a partnership, to seeing that the other person is correct, you may be correct as well, which is really beautiful, isn't it? You can have two people being correct. Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I care as much or more about you, what benefits you, than me. Are you hearing an echo, Diane?
There's something, yes, I don't know, something bouncing up at the bottom.
God. I'm so perky today. It's amazing. So I want to go back. So I see it, marriage as a partnership. And I will tell you personally, it took me a number of years to be able to internalize that, utilize and leverage, because I did begin with the feeling, the emotion of relationship. I wanted to really love this person, or not just deeply like, get along. I wanted to love someone. Okay, it's my wife. She sort of she told me a story. She said it wasn't her, but she has a number of friends who, when they were getting married, or she told them she was getting married, for them, again, this may only be apocryphal. For the woman, it didn't matter who the guy was going to be. Sort of, they filled that place on the cake. The top, you put a man and a woman on the top of the cake. As long as it's somebody they like. Okay. That's not a partnership. A partnership says that there are values that are bedrock, that are fundamental. You mentioned, Diane, as I did also, integrity, respect, and the C word, caring. Caring. I mean, caring is, obviously when someone's ill, really taking care. That makes a difference. Diane had a husband who had throat cancer. Not just something simple. It was tough stuff. And it was potentially ruinous to his career. How you deal with that in such a way that you're there to support and care, and that the other person knows, in this case her husband, Michael, who I know very well, understand that. That caring causes healing. And it's not just on the physical, it's the emotional, it's the spiritual. So for me, over the decades, thank God, I've come to understand more and more concrete that it's a partnership with values that allow you to transcend self. Because if self is part of the relationship, it gets a little tricky sometimes. Because that ego, that ego is tough stuff. And on that high note, because Diane is our resident psychologist, so whenever I mention ego, I'm going to talk about her. Not that she's in ego. So that's my working definition. Your comments, Diane.
You know what I was thinking about? You were talking about the three pieces that include God. And I was thinking about Jewish marriage, because obviously we're Jewish. And what happens under the chuppah, the wedding canopy in a Jewish wedding, by that time, the two people have already agreed to the terms, basically, of what Jewish life is. And we have a guidebook called the Torah that gives us all these different commandments and ways to live all year round. So it's not a guessing game. So you know what you're in for, because you've agreed to this set of guidelines that you know it's going to be coming. You know that you're going to have Shabbat once a week and turn off your phone and turn off everything that would be electric. You know you're going to have certain times of year when there are holidays. And you also know that family is really important. So you're going to be hoping perhaps that you'll have children to add to be able to do more that's in the guidebook. So I think, oh, it's interesting though, because the man in Jewish weddings gives the woman only a ketubah being the wedding contract. The woman doesn't give the man anything. So some people go, well, that's not fair. But it says in the ketubah that the man will make sure that the woman is financially supported. And the woman is not obligated to do that because it's assumed that she will have obligations that cry and demand her full attention. And that should not be part of the contract. But it does say that you, the woman, it says the man will support you in the style to which you're accustomed, and you will behave according to the way a Jewish woman behaves. And it's assumed that that is spelled out, and it's assumed that we know it. And I think that really helps the success of those who heed it and continue to live by it through their lives. So anybody who can write out their own, I actually did a book called Deciding About Getting, it was called First Comes Love, Deciding About Getting Married. And it had in it a way for couples to write out their values and compare their goals and compare what they see their relationship to be now and in the future. And if couples can do that before they get married, then it will avoid surprises and give them something to fall back on when they're feeling apart. Maybe they can return to that and say, we both made this commitment. We both understand the same things, and we both together have created something special. So I think it's a good thing to have a wedding contract, but not necessarily, a prenup. I'm talking about values, not money specifically. So anyway, a few thoughts.
I want to make mention of something that I was going to bring out in my definitional piece, and I think it's important to mention, maybe even wax a little bit on it, is that part of the reason for marriage, and we'll use your Google AI, more of the coming together, etc., is to understand that to bring life into the world, we call children, is one of the benefits, one of the great benefits, because what you're doing is not only maintaining life, you're creating perpetuity. As you began, we first started, Diane, is that children are the mechanism by which a society, a culture, a mindset continues. So if two people go into a marriage and they have all these values of integrity, caring, such that, and one of their values is no children, you're literally creating a sterile situation, which doesn't have to be. Maybe everything will work out fine. Tends to be a contraction of the human condition rather than an expansion. Children enable the being, the physical, mental, spiritual being, to expand, because you're looking at the future. You came here, you're the product in this day and age still, who knows what's going to be in 20, 50, 100, 200 years. You're the product of two human beings coming together for the purpose of matrimony and perpetuity. That's a beautiful thing. We have spoken other times of an interesting and very difficult dilemma that is occurring in the world. And that is that in a number of what we call Western countries, they're not necessarily Western, because South Korea and Japan are two of the most egregious examples of what I'm about to tell you. Spain is another one, and Greece. In order to maintain a population, you need at least 2.1 children per married unit to enable to have a population that continues. If you get below 1.9, you don't have replacement. If you get below 1.3, you ready for this? You cannot reverse. You cannot just say, well, hey, that's what it is. It'll just continue for the next, who knows? It won't. Below, at 1.3 and below, it's irreversible, unless, of course, all of a sudden people start having 3 or 4 children. And by definition, that population shrinks. Spain, Greece, they're doomed at the moment. South Korea, Japan, doomed. And we're talking 50 to 100 years. You're not talking 300 years from now, global warming will take over the world. Okay, leave that aside. We're talking about reality, the population situation, because the real essence of marriage also means children. Now, some people can't have, some people have one, some people. 2 of my closest friends, who I'm with every single day. I learn in the morning with one of them, we learn in the afternoon with another. The one in the morning, so they only have 7 children. The one in the afternoon, I mentioned before, she gave birth to number 11 just a few months ago. Yeah, it's a lot of kids. And Dolly came from a family of 13. So there are people in my community, our community, that don't have children because they couldn't. We didn't have child for 10 years. Maura didn't have child for 10 years. So it's not the people, but the point is that people want to have children. See, wanting to have children creates an energy for a community that says we welcome children. Right now in the United States of America, I'm making a bold statement, we are creating an energy in this country that says we don't necessarily want children. And I'm talking about people who are highly educated, people who are earning good money. We're not talking about people scraping by. No, people, 2 incomes, no children, consciously. That ripples throughout the entire mindset of the country. So we have a culture today, unlike it was when I was growing up, and I'm not saying better, just say unlike the culture when I was growing up, where people were encouraged to have families. It's not happening today. And that creates truly a crisis. It will be an existential crisis soon. It will be a monetary crisis even earlier, because our system is built upon some people taking care of other people because you're paying into a system. So it's a good system if people play the system. If they don't participate, or if they can't because they don't have children. Therefore, people who are going to get older, well, what do you do? And it's a big question. What do you do? Because it lessens the thing that Diane emphasized, and it's so vital. Thank you, Diane. Caring. Caring becomes a problem because the fewer people that you care for in your life shrinks your ability to care. I'm making that statement. Nobody has to agree with me. The more people you have that you get a chance to care about, it expands your being. Yeah, fair to say? Okay, Maura, you're up, kid. So, where did we leave you?
So what do you want to ask me? I have plenty to talk about. Direct me, and I'll go.
Okay, so talk about expansiveness in marriage. As I said, I was looking at partnership and rather than relationship, and then I brought up children, and because Diane had brought up children, it was very wonderful about caring. And I will mention, she did say something also really of note, and it's quite important, that in the Jewish tradition, there is a contractual relationship. So people might say, my gosh, contract. What are you talking about? We're talking about love, baby, love. A contract is just that. When 2 adults become involved in marriage, And a contractual relationship is actually beautiful because it spells out responsibilities and rights. Hello, it's called the Declaration of Independence, or in this case, we'll call it Declaration of Dependence. But the point is that it's it's not it's not a contradiction to caring, to love. It enhances the process of values. I'm going to mention something because Diane did, and then I'll ask you to speak on this, Maura. As Diane said so eloquently, one of the beautiful aspects of living a Jewish life is something called the Sabbath. And the Sabbath, every culture, not every, three great religions have this as part of their culture today, and it comes from the Hebrew Bible. So in the Jewish tradition, it's Friday night to Saturday night. In the Christian tradition, it's Sunday, the day of Sunday. Some people do Sunday night, but Sunday. And in the Muslim tradition, it's Friday. Now, just as a fun comment, the reason the Christians have it on Sunday is because the Jews had it on Saturday. And the reason that it's true. And the reason the Muslims have it on Friday is because the Jews and the Christians had it on Saturday and Sunday. Okay, fine. But the point is that it's a mindset. And the mindset is Sabbath, recognizing a sanctity but beyond the human, God, creator. I want to make mention that, again, in Jewish tradition, and it's actually somewhat common in traditional Christian homes, that in the Jewish tradition, we read, or the man of the home reads Proverbs chapter 31, the end of the book of Proverbs, which talks about a woman of valor who can find. Her worth is more than fine pearls or rubies, and it waxes eloquent for another 22 sentences. This is what the Jewish man sings to his wife every Sabbath, Friday night. And I've been doing it, thank God, for 49 years. And the children know it. And it's not a ceremony. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of recognizing the genius, the gift, the beauty of what's called marriage. Husband, wife, man, woman, and God. So, Maura, I'd like you to comment on that also, because I know that you and Jimmy have a truly wonderful, fabulous, loving relationship. I'm going to prove it to you. Ready? That was Jimmy's heartbeat when he sees you.
He's still. Oh, Barry. Well, this has been very good. I have several thoughts. Diane, when you mentioned about the contract, I don't know what you refer to it in Yiddish, right? What is it?
Hebrew, ketubah.
Ketubah. That's the first I've ever heard of it. And you made an interesting point, and I have to tell you, wherever I am, whoever I meet, my thought, wherever I go, travel, different cultures, I'm always looking for something good that I could take out of it, because we can always find something of value everywhere. And you really made me think, because when two people in the Jewish faith are coming together and they do have that ketubah, and you said there are certain expectations. Nobody can say, gee, I didn't know. Nobody told me. You go into it with these are the expectations. You can't really welch out of it later on. I'm thinking, that's pretty good. So I started going backwards. Well, they don't do it in the Christian families that I'm aware of, but I started going back. Jimmy and I were both brought up as Roman Catholics. And one of the things, we've moved into the Christian faith a little bit greater than that. But, well, I say beyond that, but however you want to take it. But when we got married, within the Catholic faith, Catholics are required to go to pre-Cana. And we went away, rather than doing it over a series of several weeks, we went away for a weekend to a monastery. And they had various couples that were there that were already married, and they were moderating. And we were among the couples planning to get married. Now, this is where my mind went listening to you. And they had these couples bring out topic by topic, probably similar to the book you said you wrote, Diane. And we all had a journal to write in. And so they would speak, we'd have to write, and then the prospective husbands and wives would exchange their journals. Now, Jimmy and I had been dating 4 years between college and a year afterwards, so we knew each other quite well. We are watching couples having arguments, girls crying in the middle of the night, and Jimmy and I are like, have these people not talked about this?
Wait a minute, wait a minute. I have to give you something.
But do you see that is a really good point to bring up? Do people just say, I feel like getting married? And then boy, something doesn't work. We didn't understand each other. We didn't come to an agreement. So doing things like that are very sound. And then the expectations are understood by both parties. I think that's wonderful when it comes to marriage. Now, I had several other thoughts about that. One, I don't even know if it's what you asked, Barry, but I'm going to share this because it came back to me. When we were getting married, we were 23 years old. We were out of college 1 year. I was in law school. Jimmy had come back from playing basketball overseas.
By the way, I want to interrupt for a moment. This is very important what you just saying.
What?
I was 29 when I got married. My wife, 28. Diane, without disclosing, because we don't like women to say her name. How old were you?
I was over 30.
Okay. And Michael over 30.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you. I guess we'll have to do real applause. Because 23 is shocking, probably to some people listening, and certainly to anybody in the age of 23 these days. I mean, to have them even think married at 23. So huge bravo to you and Jimmy, because you were not just doing a hormonal thing. You were actually thinking about what you were doing. So again, it's a big thing.
Now it is, I guess. But we would have gotten married sooner, but we were in college and we had obligations. And I remember my mother saying, oh, you've got to get married after law school. That's so tacky to get married after college, or right after college. So we waited 1 year. But here's an interesting thing. Now we're talking back in 1981. My best friend, who was also maid of honor, she was in our backyard. We got married in the summer. The two of us were swimming in our family's pool. And she's my age. And she said, Maura, I just don't understand. You're 23. What do you want to get married for? Now, I'm going to tell you, you want to talk about God being the third partner in your marriage. I came out from underwater, and this is what came out of my mouth. I said, Lori, I'm getting married to start a new life. And I have to tell you, I felt like they were prophetic words that came from my spirit, and I never forgot them, because I knew when I met Jimmy, even though I wasn't looking for a husband, he had something there that was unlike anyone else I had ever met or ever have since met. And it was something that was so special to me. I didn't know all that it was going to mean for the future. All I did know is that when we came together, we both had certain expectations. And the way it came out of my mouth, I'm getting married to start a new life. And that's what it's been. It's been life over and over and over again that keeps, you know how like you can have waves, but let's say the wave, rather than starting way out in the ocean, moves forward. It starts in a circle, and it's almost like it comes up from the ground. So I forgot about this. This is how I opened up the article I wrote for Huffington Post. Wasn't my quote, but I used it. It was from a Mignon McLaughlin. I'm probably mispronouncing the first name, but you ready for this? The definition of marriage that I put down, or a successful one, a successful marriage requires falling in love many times, always with the same person. Like that. I loved it. 12 years ago,
Hallmark,
I liked it.
Hallmark cards. Thank you. You just got a good drum roll. As long goes. Okay. I wanna blow your mind a little bit more, if you allow me, Diane,
Okay.
because you gave a visual that is very profound and so real. And I'll tell you why in a moment. You were in the pool, you were underwater, and you came up out of the water in a
Mikvah.
rebirth.
Mikvah.
Right. So in the Jewish tradition, a woman goes to what people call a ritual bath. It's called a mikvah because the word in Hebrew, mikvah, means hope, starting a new life. She goes every month to begin a new life,
How about
to nourish a new life. So the fact that Diane, weren't you tingling when she said that?
Well, I guess. I mean, I was going to add that, but you beat me to it.
Oh, no, we're working
Women,
together.
women before they get married, Mara, before they get married, they go to a mikvah, and it basically prepares and cleanses them to become a new person for a new life. Okay, but then also every month on a cyclical basis, they go to the mikvah because then again they have the potential to make a new life within them. So the mikvah is symbolic of your own new life and the future.
you just gave me the chills.
Well, you deserve it. Well, look,
Who knew back in 1981?
I mean, this is so real.
Wow.
Not, wait a minute, it is surreal and so real because you told us about what happened, and it's unfortunately there are too many people at the moment in the United States of America who are not enabling and allowing themselves to experience what you just said, to think, I'm beginning a new life,
I knew
to enter into this relationship, but as a partnership and a contractual, and to realize and to articulate goals and values, more values than goals even, and to think about children, to think about birth, to think about building a name. Remember, a good name is better than fine oil, and better the day of passing than the day of birth, because that's real life. And in our world, especially the United States, however, it's so widespread, it's global today. The pace of life is purposely sped up, I think sometimes by malign forces, however, just because what's happening, purposely sped up so that people don't make time to think about. So when Diane talks about the Sabbath, the beauty of it, the true beauty, is being able to have time so that you have time for the person that you care about most, caring, family, self, literally making time to do something that is so almost unusual. Think. That's the genius of being married, I believe, is that you have the true knowledge that there's someone who cares about you. You mentioned it, Diane. Then I know I'm cared for. You can't buy it, right? It just, you can earn it. How do you earn it? By how you treat someone else. And it's not a quid pro quo. On the contrary, what you want to get to is something we've talked about in previous times, is what we call willingly giving as opposed to giving. Giving almost always involves, I'm giving, I'm expecting something. Willingly giving is because I love you. I think about you. What can I do? What can I do to make my wife laugh? If I make my wife laugh, or even see just a small smile, it's worth years. It animates me. It's true love. Okay, well, I must say, kids, I am just I'm tickled that we had this session today. We were able to speak about Lori, her mother, Dolly Parton, a truly great Ameri- American and Americana, and this remarkable process that we are involved in called marriage with joy. So we have just a couple of minutes where I'd like to ask Diane and Maura if you'd be so kind in 12 words, no, in 2 minutes, just say something that you would like people to remember about what we've been discussing today. Just 2 minutes.
Well, one thing that I didn't get to say was that there are cultural elements and there are background elements that come into what marriage is for each individual. And I think it's a mistake to try and say marriage is the same thing for everybody, because different people have different needs, and especially at different times of life, marriage serves different purposes. And while your kids are very little, you both probably have to focus on the welfare of the babies. And you may not have as much time for each other. That doesn't mean your love diminishes. That just means that marriage becomes something different. And as they get older, then you end up serving a different role for them. And you can turn a little bit back to the other partner more. So the thing is that marriage is not one thing, and it's an ebb and flow through time. And it's even the definition that you give it can change with time. Sometimes when my husband was sick, I had to be a nurse, and I could not be just doted on wife. I had to become something I did not choose and I did not want. But I knew without fail that it was my role, something I had to accomplish. And again, culturally, as we were saying, living in the Jewish community, that meant that we had certain parameters that maybe other people in our community didn't. And that's fine. Marriage is not one thing, but as long as you agree on what it is basically and how it can change and move, ebb and flow to serve both of you through the years, then it can become something that stays as vital as it was when you got married. And I also recommend to people to look at your wedding pictures, because that will bring back the good feeling.
Maura.
You know, I'm going to dovetail. I looked at the notes I wrote down in preparing for today, and this is going to go right along with what Diane just mentioned, that when we get married day one, it doesn't mean that every day is going to look the same, or every chapter or evolution of our lives is going to be the same, and that's part of it. So this is what I wrote down elsewhere. I said, we're a union of two. We are couple-centered, which is really where you start out when you get married. Family focused, which is where you are as you have children and then you develop them. And then the children grow up and they go out and they become adults on their own. And you can, at that point, be individually enriching. And one of the things I want to say that, and this might sound even a little bit odd, I called our marriage a working dichotomy. You know, usually think of dichotomy as something that's oppositional. But a working dichotomy are two people that come together almost like mirror images. They're not identical. They're in many ways. You've got a woman generally and a man. And yet there's something about them that works together to grow, to challenge, to encourage, to support, and to make sure that that other individual lives their life to the full, even as they're encouraging you to do the same thing. And there you get this marriage that may have started day one where you walk down an aisle and say, I do. But decades later, you're still growing and still evolving and still living in the life of God, the life of life, the very life source continues to go on.
I am moved to say the following. I am so thankful for you, Diane, for you, Maura, and for you, Lori, specifically today. I am honored, humbled to be with us together. You're both amazing.
As are you.
Thank you. So let's do two things. We'll do our group hug and a blessing for the people watching us. Are you ready, kids? 1, 2, 3. And a blessing for wonderful Diane and Maura, and in absentia of wonderful Lori. Go forth. Live exuberantly. Spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Thanks, kids.
Bye.
Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running.